An anti-hate law came into force in Scotland on April 1st, and there's great excitement and confusion here. Will anyone who calls transsexuals the wrong gender be prosecuted soon? Well, it seems as if the Scottish National Party, the SNP, has just given itself a bad April's Fool's joke. Humza Yousaf, the SNP leader and Scottish regional president, chose April 1st to bring an extremely controversial new law into force. The Hate Crime and Public Order Act was passed by the regional parliament 3 years ago, but its entry into force has been significantly delayed due to sensitive questions of application. In Scotland, similar to England, there has long been a law in place that criminalizes fomenting racial hatred. Now the scope is being expanded. Anyone who makes threats or insults with the intention of fomenting hatred against social groups is now also liable to prosecution. Religion, age, disability, sexual orientation, or a transsexual identity are listed as characteristics protected against discrimination. The law not only covers statements made on social media and in public places, but also potentially within your own four walls. First Minister Yousaf emphasizes that the threshold for prosecution is extremely high, but opponents have doubts and warn of negative consequences for freedom of expression. The law states that discussions and criticism are permitted. In connection with religion, Scots are expressly permitted to express antipathy, disapproval, ridicule, and insults. However, these guarantees are less explicit for the other protected characteristics. Gender-critical feminists are on the front line fighting against the law, engaging in bitter wars of words with trans activists on social networks. Susan Smith from the Organisation for Women Scotland tells Sky News that the law is very vague. Therefore, a subjective impression of hate speech could also lead to a report. She speaks of activists who already kept lists of political opponents whom they now wanted to prosecute. The Scottish Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling is an enemy as well. She regularly engages in verbal skirmishes on social media with a transsexual TV presenter whom she refers to as a man. But strict Christians and Muslims also express concern. They fear consequences because of their conservative views on gender, women, or homosexuality. James Chalmers, a law professor at the University of Glasgow, believes these fears are greatly exaggerated. Speaking to the BBC, he referred to current practice in dealing with the existing offence of fomenting racial hatred. The few convictions did not result from verbal aggression against individuals, but rather, for example, calls for violence or killing that targeted an entire group. According to Chalmers, if someone deliberately addressed a trans person by their gender, this could only have legal significance as a piece of the puzzle of an overall picture with much more far-reaching statements. Police practice is likely to be decisive for the social consequences of the law on freedom of expression. It is unclear whether there will be a flood of reports and whether anyone who posts an insult on social media will have to expect a call from the police. Scottish police have said they will investigate any reports, and shortly before, the law enforcement officers had announced that due to budget cuts, they no longer had the capacity to prosecute all minor crimes such as shoplifting. The Tory opposition in Edinburgh therefore argues that the Scottish regional government is setting completely wrong priorities. And meanwhile, the culture war is putting the SNP back in the back again. A year ago, an affair involving a rapist who suddenly revealed he was transgender accelerated Nicola Sturgeon's political demise. The next few months will show whether the law against hate crimes will also put her successor Humza Yousaf in serious trouble as well, like the First Minister Sturgeon. But the year 24 has been marked by a flurry of elections across the globe, each carrying significant weight in shaping the future trajectory of their respective countries and to some extent the world at large. Among these pivotal elections, Britain's upcoming general election stands out as a crucial turning point, especially in the context of post-Brexit recovery efforts. The aftermath of Brexit, compounded by the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic and geopolitical tensions, such as the Russia-Ukraine war, has left the United Kingdom grappling with economic instability and political turmoil. Against this backdrop, the forthcoming general election holds immense significance in determining the course of the nation's recovery. As the Labour Party emerges as the frontrunner with a substantial lead in the polls, the prospect of a change in government raises hopes for a fresh approach to addressing the country's pressing issues. However, the road ahead remains fraught with challenges, given the deep-rooted political dysfunction and the enduring legacy of Brexit. The decision to leave the European Union, touted by Brexiteers as a pathway to renewed sovereignty and economic prosperity, has instead led to a series of setbacks for the UK economy. Plummeting exports, sluggish growth, diminished productivity, and strained public finances underscore the urgent need to confront the catastrophic consequences of Brexit. Yet, political discourse in Britain has been marked by a reluctance to address Brexit head-on, reflecting a combination of voter fatigue and deliberate efforts to stifle debate. However, the gravity of the situation demands a candid reassessment of the country's trajectory and a concerted effort to chart a course towards recovery. Drawing parallels to the iconic scene from the Italian Job, where a bus laden with gold teeters on the edge of a cliff, the UK finds itself at a critical juncture, balancing precariously between its past aspirations and the harsh realities of its present predicament. The promises of Brexit, once steeped in optimism, now ring hollow in the face of tangible hardships. In seeking a way forward, British policymakers must confront the stark realities of their situation and prioritize efforts to mend fractured relationships, particularly with the European Union. While rejoining the EU may seem improbable in the near term, collaboration on key issues such as defense, trade, and migration can pave the way for mutual benefit. The next government, whether led by Labour or the Conservative Party, must resist the allure of populist rhetoric and instead focus on pragmatic solutions that address the underlying challenges facing the nation. From aligning regulatory standards to tackling the root causes of mass immigration, decisive action is imperative to steer Britain towards a path of stability and prosperity. In the eyes of the international community, Britain's upcoming election carries profound implications not only for its own future but also for its role on the global stage. It falls upon the elected leadership to restore faith in Britain's governance and reassert its standing in the international arena, forging a path towards economic renewal, security, and self-respect. As the world watches with bated breath, the outcome of Britain's general election holds the promise of a new beginning in its post-Brexit journey. Beyond the immediate implications for Britain, the outcome of the general election is poised to reverberate across the global political landscape. With Brexit service as a bellwether for populist movements worldwide, the manner in which Britain navigates its post-Brexit challenges will undoubtedly shape international perceptions of nationalism, but also sovereignty and the future of liberal democracy. For the European Union, Britain's departure has not only strained economic ties, but also raised questions about the cohesion and efficacy of the Union itself, which was strengthened now. As Britain grapples with the consequences of its decision, EU leaders are confronted with the imperative to address underlying grievances and foster a renewed sense of unity among member states. Moreover, the implications of Britain's general election extend far beyond the confines of Europe, with ripple effects felt across the Atlantic and beyond. The United States in particular is closely watching developments in Britain as it navigates its own political landscape and contends with the legacy of the Trump era. In this interconnected global landscape, the outcome of Britain's general election holds far-reaching implications for international trade, diplomacy and security. As Britain seeks to redefine its role on the world stage, the choices made in the upcoming election will shape its relationships with key allies and adversaries alike. Amidst the uncertainty and upheaval of the post-Brexit era, one thing remains clear. Britain's general election is not just a domestic affair, but a pivotal moment with implications that extend far beyond its borders. As voters head to the polls, the stakes could not be higher, and the choices made will resonate for years to come, shaping the future trajectory of Britain and its place in the world. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.